We hunted high, we hunted low, and soon ransacked the empty house. Then o'er the isle to and fro we ranged to listen and to look, in every cranny, cleft, or nook that might have hid a bird or mouse. But though we searched from shore to shore, we found no sign in any place, and soon again stood face to face before the gaping door, and stole into the room once more as frightened children steal. Aye, though we hunted high and low and hunted everywhere, of the three men's fate we found no trace of any kind in any place, but a door ajar and an untouched meal and an over-toppled chair. So goes the poem Flannan Isle by Wilfred Wilson Gibson. The poem is a semi-fictitious account of a real-life mystery, that of the unexplained disappearances of 3 lighthouse keepers one dark and stormy night. The Flannan Isles are a cluster of islands located off the coast of Scotland. For years, the islands were a lethal danger to sailors making their way to Scottish ports. So much so that the islands gained the ominous nickname, the Seven Hunters. The need for a lighthouse became clear, and in December 1899, work began on Flannan Isles Lighthouse. Built upon the highest point of the island of Island Moor, the lighthouse beacon could be seen for up to 20 nautical miles, keeping passing ships safe from shipwreck up the Flannan Isles' rocky coastlines. Yet it was only a year later, in December 1900, that a mystery would arise that endures to this day. 3 men were assigned to Flannan Isles Lighthouse: James Ducat, the principal lighthouse keeper; Thomas Marshall, the second assistant; and Donald MacArthur, who held the title of occasional keeper, who was filling in for a man named William Ross, as the latter man was on sick leave. All were experienced in their jobs, making their fate all the more strange. The mystery begins on the night of December 15th, 1900, as a vessel made its way past the Flannan Isles. Curiously, the sailors could not see the light from the lighthouse. Upon arriving in port, the matter was reported to the Northern Lighthouse Board, and a ship called Hesperus was dispatched to investigate. What happened next was captured in a telegram from the Hesperus's captain. A dreadful accident has happened at Flannan's. The 3 keepers, Ducat, Marshall, and the occasional, have disappeared from the island. Upon our arrival there this afternoon, no sign of life was to be seen on the island. Fired a rocket, but as no response was made, managed to land Moore, who went up to the station but found no keepers there. The clocks were stopped, and other signs indicated that the accident must have happened about a week ago. One of the men aboard the Hesperus who first investigated the lighthouse was Joseph Moore, who was due to take over duties at Flannan Isles. He wrote, "I was the first to land, leaving Mr. McCormick and his men in the boat till I should return from the lighthouse. I went up, and on coming to the entrance gate I found it closed. I made for the entrance door leading to the kitchen and storeroom, found it also closed, and the door inside that, but the kitchen door itself was open. Upon entering the kitchen, I looked at the fireplace and saw that the fire was not lighted for some days. I then entered the rooms in succession, found the beds empty, just as they left them in the early morning. I did not take time to search further, for I only knew too well something serious had occurred." A broader search of the island was made, but the 3 lighthouse keepers had vanished without a trace. Everything around the lighthouse seemed to be in order, with no indication of foul play or mischief. The keeper's log was discovered, and seemed to indicate that the keepers were still at their work as late as the morning of December 15th. Over the past century, many theories of what happened to the Flannan Isles keepers have arisen. Some say that the men were kidnapped by parties unknown, or perhaps the men had sailed away to escape their debts back home. More fantastical ideas include the island being attacked by some kind of sea monster, or that the keepers were doomed to sail the seas for all eternity, after being taken by a ghost ship. Bolstering a possible supernatural happening was a report of several additional log entries being found. These entries tell of a monstrous storm that hit the island, so ferocious that the men prayed for their deliverance. The writing said that Ducat had been unusually quiet during this time, and that MacArthur, known as a rough and tough fellow, had wept. Yet the final entry stated that the storm had eventually passed, and all was calm. It should be noted that the existence of these additional entries is disputed. They only came to light several years after the disappearance, and further investigations have cast doubt on them. Another theory puts forth the idea that MacArthur, who by accounts was an ill-tempered man, had instigated an altercation with his two fellow keepers. Perhaps the fight led to all three men falling into the sea, or perhaps MacArthur murdered Ducat and Marshall before either escaping or taking the easy way out. Yet the lack of evidence of a fight in and around the lighthouse cast doubt upon this theory as well. The theory arrived upon by the investigators at the time would appear to be the most likely. Joseph Moore reported that the iron railings on the west side of the island had been broken and twisted, and that nearby equipment had been strewn across the rocks. This led to the conclusion that the three men had been trying to secure the equipment during a storm and couldn't escape as a rogue wave snatched them and dragged them to a watery grave. A horrific and tragic end, to be sure, but not a supernatural one. Though, there is one last account from the Flannan Isles Lighthouse that can be considered odd. It was reported that as Joseph Moore made his way up the stone steps to the lighthouse upon first arriving on the island, he noticed three large black birds staring down at him. Something about these birds unsettled Moore. Whatever you believe, two things are pretty clear regarding the Flannan Isles Lighthouse. Three men vanished, and we will probably never know for sure what really happened.